looks like you had an incredible journey the last couple of days, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it was fun. Summited the highest peak in the San Juans and did a little backpacking a couple days later.
Uh-huh. How high were you?
14,308
Oh
feet.
my gosh. Oh wow. Wow. Hey, by the way, I love that story that you did.
It's 100% true.
Oh my
Everything
gosh. Oh.
that yeah, it's all true.
Can you just kind of go over it again? At some point I thought I would love for you to read that story because when I read it, it was so impactful. First I thought, is this really true? But then the more I got into it, and said, yeah, because this is you're talking about going between Mississippi and Louisiana and your friends, or your cousins spoke French, and back then, 50 years ago, yeah, that was a common language, for the Cajuns, right? Yeah.
Yeah. My step grandmother, born and raised in Louisiana, never learned English.
Oh, wow. Oh.
My grandparents, on my father's side, spoke French in the house.
Uh-huh.
In public they would speak English, but at home they spoke French.
Uh-huh. So you had quite the diverse background in terms, you're born in Mexico, then you spent time, I guess, in Peru, right?
No, Venezuela.
Oh, Venezuela. Okay. Oh, Venezuela. Uh-huh. Around Caracas?
No, in a town called Lagunillas. It's
Uh-huh.
on Maracaibo, and it's not far from Colombia.
Okay. Yeah, I spent time in Colombia in the 70s, just for about 6 months. I went to Cali, Bogota, Ibagué. This was let's see, who was I was traveling with? Gita Sanchez. Remember you remember Gita?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that and
to Bucaramanga.
Pardon me?
Did you go to Bucaramanga?
No, didn't go there. No.
That's closer to Venezuela.
Oh, was it? Okay. Oh. Yeah, I really love South America. And I think you spent some time there, didn't you?
Well, yeah, 4.5 years.
Oh, 4.5 years. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, I been to, well, I guess Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Argentina, Brazil, and the Galapagos Islands.
Yeah, wow, I haven't been to most of those places.
And then I lived 2 years in Mexico,
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's where I was born, Mexico. I'm a dual citizen.
Oh, that's what you're telling me. Yeah, and you told me you got drafted by the Mexican, was it Army or what was it called? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, don't want the present administration to come after me for having served in a foreign army.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Especially the way things are going now. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, legally, it's legal. If you're born in the country and they require it, that is legal. But with what's going on now, I'm just like, whoa. Because like just 5 years ago, I went to get insurance, and they told me I wasn't a U.S. citizen. I went to get Medicare, government insurance, and they said, well, where's your proof of citizenship? And I didn't have it. So I had to write the Department of State, and it took a year to get an answer. But for months, I was basically an illegal alien here, according to the government, even though, my parents were born here.
Yeah.
I was being treated, and I finally got it worked out, and they said, well, now you have a passport, don't ever let it expire.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty rough on you, even if if you're born in another country.
Yeah. Oh well. So I would like to hear that story from your words, because then my wife read it, and we're both, wow, we thought this is absolutely incredible. And talk about synchronicity. That was one of the best synchronicity stories I think I've heard in a long
Yeah.
time.
Wow. Well, we living in Venezuela. I was around 4 when we moved there and 5 when we left. But every December we'd come to the U.S. for Christmas, and we'd visit our grandparents, and or my parents would visit their parents, and then we'd go back to Venezuela. So we'd spend, I think, 2 weeks. And one year we were at my grandparents in Mississippi in Gulfport, and I, we opened our Christmas presents, and I was excited. I got this little airplane that was on a cord, and it had a battery, and it would fly around in a circle, and you'd hold the cord, and it was before remote control model planes, and it was a great Christmas. And then we left to go to Louisiana to my father's grandparents, and the highway along Highway 90 that goes through Gulfport is right on the ocean, and it was cement slabs, so it would create a bounce. Every slab you bounce, 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 and they had put all of my Christmas toys in a small suitcase, and it bounced out. That was the end of my Christmas. I didn't get re-gifted or anything. That no presents at Christmas. We visited my grandparents in Louisiana, and they ate wonderful Cajun food, and it was very, very warm, close family atmosphere. And went back to Venezuela, and the next year we came back and repeated the same thing. And I met this kid on the beach, and we became fast friends. And in Venezuela in the 50s, well, there's probably still is, I'm sure, but there was the poverty was pretty bad. And so I was used to seeing poverty, but boy, when I saw this American kid's family, I was shocked. I mean, even growing up around poverty in Mexico and Venezuela, these people were like shockingly poor. And my grandmother was a Southern Baptist, and because these people were poor, she forbade me to see him, and said the kid wasn't welcome at her house. And my mother got very upset about it and defended me and told me just to ignore her and just don't, the kid can't come to her house, but I can go play with him. So one day we were walking along the beach, and he said, last Christmas, my parents told me Santa Claus wasn't going to come, and and he said it was very upsetting, and cried and everything. And he went down to go to the beach and walk along the beach, just really, really sad that there was going to be no Christmas for him. And there was a suitcase laying next to the road, and he opened it full of toys just for somebody his age. We were the same. And they lived in a loft in a barn, a regular barn. And he described all the toys, which I already knew what the toys were, but I didn't tell him. I thought, well, I don't want to. This kid is so nice, he'd probably want to give them back, him to have them. So I didn't say anything. And then he said, "Do you want to go? We'll go and play with the airplane," which was my dream toy, the year before. So we went and we played with the airplane, and then went on to Louisiana, and I never saw him again.
Wow. Talk about, so you really had a lot of compassion, at a young age, because most kids, let's put it, not most kids, some kids would want to get their toys back, but that, it takes a mature child, to see, walk in the other person's shoes, and to see, wow, I'm not going to say anything, the kid was extremely, full of gratitude of what was presented to him. Yeah, that takes a lot, So seems to me, like you were kind of brought up in a good family environment. If you had that, inside of you, because that almost has to be taught, don't you think? Compassion. I'm not sure. I guess that's a double-edged sword. You know, some people have it, and some people have to over the years, you know, gain compassion to others. And then
Yeah.
we have some, but our current administration doesn't have any at all.
No, no, and I wasn't brought up religious. We didn't go to church. You know,
Yeah.
my parents weren't religious, didn't push it on us. When at some point they said, we want to take you to church and see if it's something you want to do. So we went to the Methodist church 2 or 3 times. My father's side was Catholic, but he had rejected Catholicism when he was around 10. And I didn't like it. You know, I went 2, maybe 3 times, and I told my mother, I don't want to go anymore. And she said, okay, we won't go anymore.
Yeah.
Parents didn't go either.
Well, for me, the way I've been seeing you have 2, your external church would be, you know, the mountains, you know, hiking,
Right.
you know, that's how you commute, and then you have your internal practice, you know, that you've been doing
Yeah, knowledge, right.
for 50 probably almost 50 years.
Knowledge, it would be 49 years in August.
In August, okay.
71.
I was let's say 3 months behind you. Yeah, I was in November. I received knowledge in Premnagar in India.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. In November, right in November?
Yeah, in November. Yeah, my
Wow.
very first day in India was the last day of Hans Gianti. I hitchhiked from France to India with my surfboard. And,
I did that trip.
Yeah.
But I didn't go to Premnagar or anything like that, you know.
What's that? Well, I didn't hear you.
I said I didn't go to Premnagar.
Oh, you didn't go to Premnagar. Okay.
In India. In India.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and from there I probably spent about, I'm not sure, I guess 6 months in India, and then I hitchhiked from Kenya to South Africa with I don't know if you know Kali Rodriguez and Kathleen Cook.
Kathleen Cook, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we were Prem was going to go to the first time to South Africa. So we went down to help things up. And I was quite young. I was only 19-year-old kid. You know, I look back now and say, oh my gosh, you know, I don't know if I even sent my daughter down there.
Oh, we're lucky to be alive after those trips. Oh
yeah.
Jeez.
And I like that story that you told me about that a Tai Chi incident. You know, I guess in a grocery store.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your whole martial arts. You know, how you got into it, and looks like, you know, that discipline definitely, you know, pays off even today.
Well, wow, that's how I got.
Not a hard one, yeah.
Yeah, where to start? I started with this with Robert Heel Mason. He's a Premi, or you know, don't use that term anymore, but he and when I heard he was teaching, I thought, well, you know, I feel like I'll be comfortable, and he was just teaching in his living room in Fort Lauderdale, so I went there, and yeah, after 2.5 years, I got got my black belt, and which was, he hadn't had that many students yet, so that was the fastest anybody had done it. And yeah, it was just something I was pretty fanatical about, and I was pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I competed at a pretty high level. So I went to England, and I took my boxing gloves. We used boxing gloves. We didn't use those little gloves. And I went to England and went to a gym in England. I wanted to fight some English guys, and I ended up fighting one English guy and 2 Jamaicans.
Oh yeah. Oh. So that's pretty much almost like a cross discipline. You know, I'm sure, you know, meditation and the martial arts, right? They probably pretty much go hand in hand, don't they?
Well, the chi is you know, it's something you have to feel. Like when, you know, it's the techniques to learn that, and like to to focus on that. I would focus on chi going into my hands, and when my hands and fingers would start tingling, I knew the power was there for the chi.
Yeah.
You can do amazing things. I mean, I had a lady friend hold a pendulum up, and I was able to move it all the way up so it was parallel without actually physically touching it. It
Oh,
was
wow. Oh, wow. Wow.
from my hand, and that
Yeah.
like chi. And then, you know, I tell you about that incident in a store in Boynton Beach, Florida. This guy in a store who he worked there, and there was a counter between us, but he was, I forget what it was, but he was jawboning on me about something, and it got to be really irritating, and he wouldn't shut up. So I went like that, and I mean, I was 4 feet from him, and he flew backwards and slammed into the wall behind him. Basically, his feet lifted off the ground, you know. And his face had this total shock and surprise, because he knew I didn't physically touch him, but something hit him in the chest pretty hard. And it kind of scared me a little bit, because I didn't really intend to hit him like that. You know? It was just like the guy just wouldn't back off, you know. Man, just back off. It worked. He backed off.
I bet he did. Oh, yeah.
I just left the mall. Didn't go back for several months to that particular mall.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So yeah, that's kind of amazing too. You know, that we both have been meditating, you know, for 48 years. You know,
Yeah.
I still can't imagine my life, you know, without my spiritual practice. You know, it's you know, for me every day, I'm sure you wake up and it's kind of like an honor. You know, we have the opportunity, you know, to close our eyes and go inside. So yeah, that's kind of been my driving force. You know, my hobbies have been writing. You know, I love to write. Surfing, you know, surfing is up there, and meditation and ethnic cooking. I love. I've been. I was kind of born and raised with ethnic culture. You know, I was brought up in California, so my dad's hobby was ethnic food cooking too. So by the time I was 5, I have everything from Indian, Pakistan, you know, Japanese, Chinese, you know, Ethiopian.
Steve Oakley was a chef in an Armenian restaurant in Aspen, Colorado, and I had a meal there once that he had cooked. It was, wow, one of the best meals I ever had. You know, Armenian food is actually quite good.
Yeah, and most people haven't probably no idea of what it is. Yeah.
Right.
So you're up at you said you don't have any problems with the air being at 15,000 feet. That's a
No, it doesn't bother me. The last 100 yards on that mountain, I sprinted.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow. Oh
After
gosh.
hiking for miles and gaining 4,000 feet altitude.
Yeah, for me, I probably would have crawled. You know, I'm in good shape, but I never could do altitudes.
Yeah, some people can't.
Yeah.
Right.
I told you about my time, you know, at the observatory in Maui, where I worked at 10,000 feet, and except for we had to go up and down, up and down, up and down, you know, 4 days a week.
Well, on that last 100 yards on the mountain wasn't real steep. It was about like this.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Before that, it was like that, you know.
Yeah.
So, but still, it's at 14,300 feet.
Oh, I saw that a dad had to carry his daughter out because she bruised her ankle.
Yeah, she sprained her ankle. It wasn't a bad sprain. I didn't see any swelling, and but I guess it bothered her.
Yeah.
And he was carrying her, and both their backpacks.
Oh,
You know,
oh my gosh! Wow.
their little day packs on her back, and then she was on his back.
Uh-huh. Yeah, too bad she didn't have crutches, but you don't have crutches after that.
Yeah, you don't realize you know you're gonna sprain your ankle when you start, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They could have got some picked up some sticks once they got to tree line. They were just when I took that photo, they were just barely reaching tree line at that point.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I've been enjoying your Facebook posts, throughout the years when you go on your jaunts, and I say to myself, "Oh, hey, there's Jeff again, going on another incredible journey."
Well, I would do a lot more if I could. I just don't have the money for the gasoline to get to the trailheads, but if I had, I would have done way more than I've done.
Mhm. Do you have a favorite journey? Or are they all, just
Oh, they're all amazing, but and until last week, a mountain called Hansies was my favorite. They're also near Lake City, but Uncompahgre is my new favorite.
oh,
Just an amazing views. I mean, they all have amazing views, but some are a little better than others.
yeah. Do you do a lot of hiking in New Mexico too?
When I lived in New Mexico, I did a fair amount in New Mexico, but usually I would come up to Colorado to hike.
Oh, okay.
Now that I live in Colorado, I very seldom go to New Mexico to hike. In fact, I don't think I've done it, but maybe once or twice since I've lived here.
Did you say you lived in Tezuki? Was that where'd you live in New Mexico?
In New Mexico, I lived outside of Tierra Amarilla, which is south of Chama.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Between Lake Elvado and the little village of Tierra Amarilla.
Yeah, I lived a year once in Santa Fe.
Yeah?
That was in the 70s. I went to a Santa Fe school of massage therapy.
It's gotten too big.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when I was there, it was a quaint town. Gosh, and that was almost 48 years ago. So I can't even imagine now. Yeah.
Yeah. In '69, I went there for the first time as an adult, and it was really nice then. When I was a baby, when we left Mexico, we moved to New Mexico, and my father worked on a ranch near Las Vegas, New Mexico, and so they would sometime, on weekends go to Santa Fe on his day off.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember any of that, of course. I was a baby.
Yeah. How old are you?
70.
Oh, 70. Okay. Oh, so you're 3 years off. I was born in 52.
Yeah, it's 50 for me.
Oh, 50. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So let's see what I get. Yeah, that and so yeah, we were talking about a shaman, and I told you my point of view on shamanism isn't just indigenous people. I said before that it's someone who thinks outside the box. So and it has a different perception, on life. And the more I hear from you, you definitely have a unique perspective. Even in terms of looks like growing up. You say that you had problems with the kid, remembering things, and yet at the same time you overcame those challenges.
Well, there's a story behind that, and it's not so much memory; it's memorization and problems recall. And when my mother was on her deathbed, she said she had something to tell me, and she got really tearful and really teared up. And she said when she was pregnant with me, the doctors gave her some kind of drug, and they later found out that it affected the part of the brain that memorizes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a hard time in school memorizing. I have a great long-term memory, but at school, a lot of people, they could cram, and the next day, they could pass. had to go over it over and over and over again. So it sounds like, you know, both of us were kind of
Yeah, me too. Maybe your mom had that drug too.
yeah.
They caught it, you know, pretty early and then stopped giving it to women, but it was too late for me.
Uh, yeah, and back then it was probably pretty common, you know, for
Oh yeah, in
yeah.
late 40s, 1949. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh well. So now, I mean, let's say even the difference between my brother and I, you know, as you know, I have a twin brother, John,
Yeah,
and
John, right.
and you know John,
Yeah,
and
no.
you know, as a kid, you know, John could pick up, let's say, for example, our parents gave us a bicycle, and
Uh-huh.
John hopped on the bicycle and off he went. It took me a whole month, you know, to learn the ride the darn
That's
thing.
right.
And yet, you know, after a month, you know, after I did it, I learned, you know, okay, I can master this. I can
Yeah.
do this. You know, fast forward, you know, 40 some odd years, my wife now says to me, you learn things too easily, you know, and I just kind of chuckle to myself. Yeah, if you only knew.
If you only knew, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would imagine probably did that same thing happen to you when it came to learning things, or was that
No, it was hard for me to learn anything, and it took me,
okay?
and most people, I'm a late bloomer, but once I get it, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and I tend to, you know,
yeah. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength. Yeah. I like when you sent me, you know, that message, you know, I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm going to have patience because, hey, I've been there, done that myself.
yeah, I mean, I'm almost anal about being on time and not missing appointments, you know, but I did get distracted the other day with those two guests here.
Yeah. And life happens. That's the thing, you know. I think the older I get, the more I have patience, you know. For
Yeah, that's
you never
good.
know, outside the blue, you know, some event happens. You know,
Right.
you know, that's how it is, and that's why we
Right.
don't get discouraged, you know, or pissed off or angry. Just
Yeah.
that's
It's
yeah.
not worth Anger only hurts us. It doesn't hurt the
Exactly.
person, the object of the anger. It just hurts the
Uh-huh.
individual.
It's I love that Buddhist saying. It says when you get angry, you're drinking your own poison.
Yeah, right. I haven't heard that before, but it's so true.
You know, and scientists in the last 5 years have purely demonstrated that and found that to be truth. So
Yeah,
when you get angry, you know, it secretes the adrenaline in your body, and
right.
and just think most Americans, they have a hard time even turn off the switch of adrenaline. So.
Yeah, like in martial arts, you know, if you're, you know, having a match with somebody, they get angry. Then once they get angry, they're so predictable.
Oh, wow.
'Cause they're not thinking. They're just
Yeah.
going unhinged, and that's the moves of somebody fighting in an unhinged way are very predictable. So it makes it much easier to beat them.
Yeah.
You know? And when a person gets angry, like in martial arts, your muscles tight, so your punches aren't that hard anymore. You lose the power. You think you have power, but the hardest punch is when you're just completely relaxed, and you're like rubber. Everything's just floating. And when you punch, there's a tremendous amount of power. I was known for having very usually hard punches. I worked out with a guy who had been a top heavyweight boxer in Eastern Europe and beat all the Russians. And even though I have a flat chest, I don't have a muscular chest at all. I have toothpick arms and legs. He said I hit harder than any heavyweight boxer he ever fought.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Wow.
I'm only 165 pounds, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And he wanted to train me to become a professional boxer, kickboxer, but I didn't really want that lifestyle, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be kind of hard getting beat up and hurting.
But it's about being relaxed, just like
Yeah.
anything. Like chi, just like practicing. I mean, relaxation is like so important.
Mm-hmm. So the whole thing is, and then for the chi, I think the more you're relaxed, the more the chi can
Oh,
circulate, right?
it doesn't happen if you're not relaxed. It
Yeah.
just not going to happen. It's not something you can force.
Hmm.
Yeah, you have to be really calm in your mind to make that happen.
Yeah, recently I wrote a book on nonviolence. I've been writing on nonviolence, and then that I studied, the Jains. Have you ever heard the Jains before? The
Yeah,
Jains.
the religion in India. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Uh-huh.
They don't
And
step on insects.
yeah.
Avoid
And
stepping on insects.
one of their main things that they were talking about chi and
Uh-huh.
and prana is that one is a term called pratyahara, which means bring all your senses inside. So that's one step, and then the second step is total relaxation. The more that their whole theory, they've been having for about over 2,500 years, the more relaxed a person is, the more the internal senses go inward, the greater the prana can flow. And they use that for their internal meditation experience. Most people, their mind is constantly chattering, right? We learned that, didn't we, when we first started years ago?
Yeah.
I remember I was in India. I remember I learned that they said the most difficult thing to conquer in the universe is your mind.
Yeah, I remember people saying that, right? And it's so true. I mean, but at least Prem says don't fight it. You're fighting it with the mind.
Exactly.
You can't beat the mind when you're fighting it with the mind. You just have to not pay attention to it. He described it as like hooks, and if you let yourself, like something that's passing through you, and if you get hooked, it's going to carry you off somewhere.
Exactly.
A future, a fantasy, but not to get hooked, just to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore it.
Yeah.
Focus on the techniques that he teaches. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So yeah, and that's one of the keys is relaxation, definitely.
Right.
If you're rigid, and
Right.
and you want to conquer something, well, as you know, you can't use warrior-like techniques like they do in the external world, to conquer your mind.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, you won't go too far in this path. I had some friends, who received knowledge, years ago, and that they only lasted for about a year because they didn't realize how powerful the mind was, and yet, I tried to tell you, this whole thing is about baby steps. Don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You can't, leap and jump, in
It's
this.
not a pill, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like taking acid or something.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely moment by moment, day by day. And wouldn't you agree? You never know how far you've gone. So that's kind of like the wonderful thing. And now you can look back. Let's say you could probably look back at 48 years ago, and see where you were, and where you are to now. And there's a difference between night and day. But yet, day by day, it's almost like this, right? We never know. And maybe that's the greatest thing to know, isn't it? That this is an infinite journey.
Right. There's no destination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's being in the moment, and being in the moment is not a destination. People try to measure infinity. That infinity, oh, that's a long time. No, it's not a long time. There's no time.
Yeah.
If you want to experience infinity, be totally in the moment.
Yeah. And just think, so a person could meditate, let's say, for 1 trillion years, mind you, and still it's like you're taking your first step, because it's there, as you're saying, there's never a moment where you're going to clap your hands and say, okay,
I'm there.
I got it.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Never.
Uh, so, and that's why I really have high hopes for humanity. I think, that the dream of ultimately peace on earth will happen. Not in our generation, mind you, but I think, the awareness, it yeah, they say it might take 1 million years for civilization, to grow and mature. We're not the first, ones on the block. Just think if the universe has been around for trillions of years, how many other experiments, of human beings, being on a planet, and I, I, I really think it's an evolution revolution.
I
What do
do
you think
too.
on that?
Yeah. There's 2 trillion galaxies they know of now, and that's because they have a more powerful telescope. And every time they get a more powerful telescope, the one they have now, they said, well, that's the end of the universe. It's just blank space out there. And then they get a new telescope that's more powerful, and no, it's not blank space. It's just there's more and more and more. I mean, just 4 or 5 years ago, they said there were 200 billion galaxies. Now they've identified 2 trillion.
Oh my God.
Not stars, galaxies.
Oh, galaxies. Oh my
Every
God.
galaxy has trillions of stars.
Oh my God.
And most stars have planets, and that a fairly high percentage of those planets are in the Goldilocks zone, which would be a climate similar to Earth. So
Mhm.
the odds of there being other intelligent life is pretty high. It's just so far away. I don't think that we'll ever have a technology that we can reach another planet.
Yeah, and I think physically, because
Yeah, I mean,
let's say
right.
even
Yeah.
if we can go at 186,000 miles per second, it takes 2 years to go to the.
Right. Oh, more than a lifetime, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
even
exactly.
if like going at that speed, if it slows you down where you don't age, everybody else on Earth is going to be dead by the time you get there.
Yeah, right.
maybe some technology will allow communication and
Mhm,
graphs and things like that on another planet. Uh, maybe that's a possibility, but that's so far in the future. It's
mhm.
more further away than Jules Verne's was when he wrote his books in the 1800s to what it
Yeah,
is.
huh. Yeah, but my theory is, in the quantum field, it's beyond time and space, correct? That it's beyond all dimensions. So theoretically, it's probably possible, to imagine, the quantum field is aware of everything, you know.
Uh-huh.
So imagine being in tune with the quantum field where you can go anywhere in the universe in less than a second. Now,
Uh-huh.
now, in order for that to happen, you're going to have a highly sophisticated civilization.
Right.
I think
Right.
both of us agree. They would have to probably be around for 1 billion years. And probably at least. To have that kind of, maybe I would call it maybe spiritual technology, because physical technology won't work, will it? If anything physical.
No, physically, no. I don't think it's possible. I mean, the laws of physics, I think, prevent it. And there's
Mhm.
so many obstacles with you know, well, developing a technology that will reach those speeds, and then us being able to be in something that would carry us that fast. I mean, there's just wow, it's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one theory that you can create an atmosphere using a gyroscope that would be immune from any kind of thrust or anything if you're within the that inner space of inside where the gyroscope is spinning. But
Mhm.
we haven't done that, and that's far away.
Yeah.
That's theory.
Right. Well, and the way I look at it, that this technology can never be delivered until we totally use it for peaceful reasons.
Yeah,
Right
totally.
now, we would, destroy ourselves,
Yeah.
if we had that kind of technology. And well, how, here's my theory about nature. The more, let's say, a society is distant from nature, the more fragment it will be.
Oh,
The
totally. Yeah.
you know, we definitely see that in America today. So that's why I always like when I see people like you who love nature. That I think that should be you know, that should be a trend. I think in our society. You know, we're so diverse from it, and I'm sure you have the same feelings that I
I
do.
can't imagine living in a city or anymore, or even a town.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's a good thing. Yeah.
Like 3 years ago, a mountain lion killed a deer in my backyard, and then a bear was nearby, and the bear tried to take the dead deer from the mountain lion.
Oh
I,
my. Oh,
in
oh.
in my yard, and I'm sitting inside, and I hear all this weird noises, and it was the cat screaming and the bear roaring and growling, and all at the same time, so you couldn't really distinguish a sound. It was like a collage of sounds of both of them like growling and screaming at each other, and the bear finally backed off. But it was the weirdest sound I've ever heard in my life.
Wow. I guess that's the ultimate primal scream, huh?
Oh, it was bizarre. I
Oh,
mean, I could never, yeah, replicate that sound, even if somebody tried to do it for me who knew how to do weird sounds,
uh-huh. Oh, wow.
recreate it like it for a movie or something.
So have you always, been like that, being and trying to be in tune with nature and falling in love with nature
I've always loved the forest, like in South America. It was, going in the Andes was my favorite thing, and just yeah, being out. And then when we moved to Alabama, I just loved going out in the woods and just yeah, it was always. And then of course coming to Colorado, I totally fell in love
Mhm. Yeah. Uh-huh.
with the nature here in the mountains, and it's just feeling close to the earth. Like a lot of people, when I was backpacking a few days ago, people said, "Well, aren't you uncomfortable on the ground?" I'm more comfortable sleeping on the ground than in a bed.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow.
And like that night, the last night, it rained all night. But so we went and got in our little tents early. It was still light. And I thought, well, I'm going to just lay down. I still had my clothes on. I usually strip down to boxer shorts to sleep. And, I brought the quilt instead of a sleeping bag. And so I just laid down and put the quilt up to my waist because it wasn't that cold. Saying, no, I'm waking up and the sun's coming up.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
I went to sleep when it was light and woke up when it was light. Sleeping on the ground. I mean, I slept like 10 hours, just boom, just like that.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. No, seems like we have similar natures. I remember when I was a kid, maybe 5 years old,
Yeah.
my mom would kiss my brother and I goodnight. And by the
Uh-huh.
time she walked out of the room, we were asleep.
Wow, that's really cool. I usually don't fall asleep quickly.
Oh,
You're lucky if you do.
yeah, yeah, I think I've been fortunate in that area.
When I'm outside sleeping on the ground, I fall asleep quickly, but inside it takes me a
Inside, huh?
to fall asleep.
Well, sounds like your body thrives the outdoors.
Yeah,
That's
it does.
definitely a total integral part of your life.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, and I'm on a ranch in Mexico in the late '60s, and yeah, that was amazing to be so remote, and it was 2 hours from any grocery store
Oh,
in
wow.
either
Okay.
direction. It'd take about 30, 40 minutes just to get to the highway, and then left or right turn. It was 2 hours. From there, it
Uh-huh.
was an hour and a half in either direction to the nearest grocery store.
Oh, wow.
And I loved it. I loved being. It was in the state of Durango, but between Torreon and the city of Durango. And
Mhm.
yeah, just I think that's when I knew I could, because I was alone in a little adobe house, and I it yeah, I didn't mind being alone,
Mhm.
Because I was in nature. Peyote grew all over the place. It was covered the desert around the house and
Uh,
the whole ranch. It was peyote everywhere. Uh, and we had there was a drought. It was so bad that some of the calves we had to pick up and put in a pickup truck and carry them drive them to a water hole. You know, they were in danger of dying from thirst. And so
mhm.
I met these guys in Torreon who about my age, and we became friends. And turned out they were from an indigenous tribe that used peyote in ceremonies. And so I was a hippie, you know, pot smoking hippie. This is late 60s, this is around 69, 70, I guess 1970. And we, they said, I asked them if they would do a rain dance on the ranch because it was severe. It was really bad with the animals, you know, near death and everything. And so they said, well, our aunt can prepare it. She does that for the tribe. She knows how to do the ceremony, you know, the preparation of the peyote. So we go and, you know, we go to the market and buy peyote. It was legal at the time. The U.S. government forced Mexico to make it illegal, but at the time you could just go to the market and buy it. So we, instead of digging it up on the ranch, we just went to the market. And Torreon is 2 hours from the ranch, so we didn't drive back there. And we take it to her, and she cuts all the yellow off and takes the fuzz out because that's strychnine. And then she chops it up in little pieces and puts it in a big pot that it's a pressure cooker. But before she put the lid on, she was stirring it. And then she looked at me and she said, "What's wrong with you hippies? You smoke that marijuana and you take that LCD. What's wrong with you? You're doing drugs all the time. Shame you." And she's stirring the peyote as she's or being a drug using hippie as she stirs the peyote that she's making for me. You know?
Oh my gosh! Oh.
It's so funny. So yeah, she got it down to where it was really thick, you know, with the pressure cooker, and a jigger was a dose. And so we went up to the ranch and with some tequila and the peyote in a bottle, you know, liquefied peyote, and we did the peyote. And when it was coming on, we started doing the rain dance. They started doing the rain dance, and I just joined them. And boy, the cowboys in the bunkhouse must have thought we were crazy because they were like peeking out the doors and watching us. And while we were dancing, clouds started building up, and a big, huge thunderstorm crashed in. It rained all over the ranch.
Oh my! Oh, whoa.
I think they were as surprised as I was that you know, the rain dance actually
Does work. Yeah.
I'm sure it was a coincidence, but still, it was pretty neat that the drought ended that night. And
Well, you know, personally, I think stories like that are true. You know, that the indigenous, imagine spending your whole life, let's say, in nature without, you know, Western man.
Right. Yeah.
Nature talks. You know.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah. And you can have a thing with animals too, but it's not in words. You know, it's in, you know, animals don't have language. They think in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And with their memory is pictures, and they remember things that way, and that's how they think. And if we do like that, you have a closer bond with wild animals in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like when I see deer or bear in my yard, I don't hide. I go out and I talk to them, and the deer relax and keep eating. If I hide and try to look at the deer, they think I'm sneaking up on them and they'll run away.
Mm-hmm.
And the bear, I don't yell at the bear because he's not doing anything wrong, but I want the bear not to get too close to where I sleep. So if I see a bear, I'll go outside and walk towards it, talking to it in a normal voice. And the bears always, you know, they scurry on and leave. But the deer they just kind of ignore me now.
Yeah.
If I don't make a loud noise, loud noises will scare them, or a sudden movement. But if I'm just acting normally, they, yeah, we coexist here.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty nice.
So it seemed like, yeah, you uh, I, definitely, maybe when you first thought, or myself, why am I thinking of Jeff as a shaman? But the more I hear your story, those are shaman, tendencies, coming out,
I
being
never think about that, but
yeah, yeah. Well, that's why it's nice, to have a dialogue. You see probably things you haven't thought about in years. Oh yeah, hey, yeah,
one
yeah.
of the coolest things was 2 years ago. I was inside and my cat started growling, which I'd never heard him growl before like that. Looking out the window, he growls if another house cat comes around. But I looked out the window and there's a big mountain lion walking towards the camper, and so I'm like, wow, gotta be quiet. And even if I bumped something in the camper, the mountain lion outside several yards away could hear it. So I came up really close to the camper and just looked around and just kind of stood there and hung out. Then another big mountain lion walks into the yard and joins me. And I have this 12 by 19-foot tough shed, and it's got these two big doors, and they were wide open, and my bed is in there. And it was back against some bushes where the tough shed was. And a third mountain lion comes around the tough shed, and they go and they lay down on my floor mat next to the open door to my bedroom. So the three of them lay down and they're putting their paws on each other and just being really affectionate, and it was really beautiful. And not once did they even turn their head and look inside. I mean, it's a wide open door. The space between the two doors is about 6 feet.
Oh my gosh.
It's a big wide, and they could have easily walked in and got on my bed or anything, and they weren't even curious to even look inside. And they hung out for a while, and then they walked away.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that when that happens.
So, and it seems to me, the secret is being totally calm, because they can feel fear, can't they? If a person.
Oh God, yeah, for sure.
Uh-huh.
And not being aggressive too,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think common man has two strikes against them. First thing they do is fear, and then they get aggressive. So those are the two.
And they're related, right? Yeah, they get
Yeah. The two wrong things you shouldn't do.
Right.
And yet, that's due to our upbringing. Being divorced. Well, once again, being divorced. From nature. We don't know how to act.
One of my most amazing stories, I think, with nature. I mean, I've got a lot of stories with nature and dealing with wild animals and things. But after my mom passed, I was up in the mountains north of Chama. I was in Colorado, but barely across the state line. And I was walking on this old logging road, and I was in grief, and I was crying, and I was walking and just allowing the grief to happen. And I had walked quite a ways, and I kept feeling a presence. And finally I just saw, oh, what am I feeling? And I looked, and about 10 or 12 feet from me was a big buck deer, and he had been walking parallel with me.
Oh my gosh! Oh wow! Whoa!
Just walking with me.
Yeah. Wow.
Really, I mean, just a few, really, really close.
Yeah. Wow.
I know.
It's kind of like your mom saying, "I'm always with you." Different forms. That manifestation. Can appear anywhere.
And the animals are, they're amazing. I heard a screaming during a thunderstorm on the ranch in New Mexico, and I got my hat and raincoat and went, and there's a lot of lightning, and there was this deer, a big female deer, attacking a fawn, just pawing it, boom, 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 and the poor fawn, she was going to kill it. So I chased her away, and the fawn followed me home.
Oh gosh! Oh wow! Oh gosh! Wow!
It had a big cut over its eye. I thought it had lost its eye at first, but it was just a big gash over the eye from the hoof.
Uh-huh.
I found out later that female deer will kill another doe's baby under certain circumstances.
Oh wow! Wow!
Yeah, I hadn't known that until that incident.
Yeah. Wow. Is that, I wouldn't call Darwin's survival of the fittest. Darwin really, it was cooperation was mentioned more than any other thing in
Uh-huh.
his theory. Not survival, but cooperation. The
Yeah.
nature cooperates. I think we've been brought up, for survival of the fittest. That's that's not too healthy, is it?
No, no, no.
I once saw a thing on PBS. It was a special about chickens. So
Chickens.
yeah, so they took, the most aggressive chickens and put them into a group. And then
Uh-huh.
the mom and pops, the ordinary, chickens, who love to eat and didn't, fight with one another.
Right.
They lived their life. And in a 3-year period, every single chicken in the aggressive group
Uh,
killed one another. So basically, they
like
went
fighting
down.
chickens. Yeah.
Yeah, they were fighting. Yep. So
Cockfight.
then the other group, oh,
Yeah.
they were just fine. They.
Well, yeah, it's not sustainable. Violence and anger is not sustainable.
Hmm. Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to kill everybody off. There won't be but one person left.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I told you I wrote a book on the Tao Te Ching, and I had this on my bookshelf for good 40 years. I'd
Uh-huh.
always pick up the first chapter and I'd read it, and I couldn't go any further. So during this global shutdown,
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm going to master this thing. I'm going to pick this up and really, ponder over it. So well, I really, saw, that even in the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu talked about 2,500 years ago that the meek is the most strongest. The universe is the most meekest thing, but it's the most powerful thing, and it doesn't say, like the sun in the sky does not proclaim, look at me, you look how powerful I am. The
Yeah.
sun just shines. So, the more I got that, I saw there's so many principles that are so foreign, to Westerners,
Oh,
today.
yeah.
So it's like we're probably one of the most neurotic societies in
Oh, God.
in the world,
Absolutely. Yeah. Probably number one in neurosis. I mean,
Mhm.
greed based. It's consumerism. It's about buying things you don't,
Yeah.
you know, just that. What do people do when they're bored? They go to the mall,
Mhm. Right.
cities,
Yeah.
they go shopping or they eat. They eat when they don't need to eat.
Hmm. Yeah, I always felt at a young age. I remember once my parents, probably at 5 years old, gave me this battleship. I wanted this battleship. I got it, and then about a month later, I saw that I was bored with it, and then I saw for myself that anything external, whatever came my way in terms of gifts, you like it for the moment. And
Yeah,
then over a period of time, it doesn't take too much time, mind you.
right.
that,
You stop
that,
playing with it, right?
yeah.
You
And,
get
and,
bored.
and so for me, I kind of thought, well, there has to be something inside of me, that you never get bored.
Right.
You tinker with it for a few minutes, and yet you never want to let it go, and it's always there. And I feel fortunate, that I had that attitude, at such a young age. Because some of our friends, or my high school friends, that don't have that awareness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. And and I know even back then that the money. I grew up in Newport Beach, which was a kind of
Rhode Island?
no California.
California. Okay.
Yeah. So at that time, they probably had more millionaires in Newport Beach than
That's
anywhere
right.
else.
You're San Clemente, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But even still, back then I knew that money couldn't buy me happiness.
Yeah, it's great. A lot of people, most people don't seem to realize that. Buys great comfort, though. It does buy comfort.
Yeah, yes, it does do that. Yeah. But what age would you say that you discovered that?
Wow, probably as far as long back as I can remember.
Wow. Okay.
I don't remember. Yeah,
Oh.
I've been around a lot of money, but it's never been like a goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Been around, had some very wealthy girlfriends, and
Uh-huh.
rich people a bit, but yeah, I've never had money myself ever, never.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never. I know I've always known it's comfort and not happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I learned at a really young age. I was around 7, I guess, when I had this dream. It was in Venezuela, and where we lived was 13 feet below sea level. You could see the Andes, out from our house, but it was below sea level, and there was a dike that kept the Lake Maracaibo and the Caribbean Sea out, and there was a dike that ran, like, here's a dike and there's the sea, this is land. There was a dike that ran this way too, and it kind of split the camp in half, and under the dike was a big drainage ditch, because in the rainy season, water would come rushing down the ditch, but most of the year it was dry. And I had a dream that me and my buddies were playing in a Jeep on top of the dike, and in my dream, the Jeep started with a push button, not a key. And one of my friends accidentally bumped it, and the Jeep went off the edge and flipped upside down, and we were all killed. And then I floated up over the Jeep in our bodies, and I looked down and I thought, wow, I'm not my body. I'm not really dead. My body's dead, but I'm not dead. I'm still alive. And so the next day I told my parents about the dream, and it really, really got them to thinking, and they went to a Catholic priest, they went to a Protestant, they found a Buddhist place, and they went and they talked to all these spiritual people about my dream, and nobody had an answer for it.
Yeah. Oh.
And I just, yeah, it stayed with me, that feeling from the dream as a 6-7-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then left.
Wow.
That, yeah, and things like that kept me from being able to embrace greed, consumerism,
Mm-hmm.
letting that take me over. I'm not saying I didn't like nice things or
No, I know exactly.
I wanted, of course, of course, or I had desires and stuff, but I wasn't as deluded by it.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like that vision carried you throughout most of your life in terms of having that foundation that you are more than this human body,
Yeah, and I learned that at a very young age, at a super young age. I remember my earliest memories. I used to have these horrible nightmares. It was like they were like demons and dragons, Chinese dragon kind of things that were always trying to take me over. And I'd wake up and a normal nightmare, I'd go get in my parents' bed, but when I'd have these kind of dreams, I knew my parents couldn't help me. And I would get upset that I was being bugged by these things at such a young age. And so I'm only 4 years old. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you attacking me like that in my sleep? You know, leave me alone. I'm just a child, you know. And then I started to realize that, okay, back then I called the infinite God, you know, so I didn't, and so I said, only God, only the infinite can really protect me from this, can make this go away. And so I started just focusing, even though I didn't know what it was or how to get there, I just started asking for help from that okay, these things I know I don't want in my life. I don't want this, whatever that was. I want a thing that's related to God, that touches God. And that way the dreams went away.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, and when they went away, so for me, I had to kind of take a look at trauma or events like that get stored.
Yeah, a lot of kids have weird dreams like that, right?
Yeah. So just think that maybe there's part of our cellular memory, you know,
Yeah.
And from the cellular memory, you know, fortunately, you have the dream, so it comes to the forefront, and then you could ask for help and guidance, which means, okay, you have free will, and you're asked, you know, something which we don't know exactly what it is, and it then has permission, you know, to dissolve it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, dissolve it definitely makes sense. That's the correct word to use for this.
So that was, you know, so just think that at a young age, how much healing you had by having those dreams and overcoming them. You know, that's because a lot of people have those dreams that they don't know what to do with them. You know, our society, you know, doesn't tell you, you know, to work with them, you know, to ask, you know, whatever, you know, the higher existence is, you know, for assistance and help. So you're pretty wise at 4 years old, you know.
Well, my life has been full of bizarre experiences that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. It's been a continuous thing. It's never like way.
Well, that's why I'm seeing the more and more, you know, we delve into this, the more I'm like, oh yeah, hey, Jeff really is a shaman.
It's about being in the moment. You know, I have these experiences, and some most people really find hard to believe. I mean, so I don't really talk about them, but I take them for what they are.
Yeah.
In the moment, there's something, but as soon as they're in the past, I've got to go back to being in the moment. Get caught up on analyzing and trying to figure out what some things you just can't explain. You can't. There's no answer to it. We don't have an answer, and so you just take it and you move on. But to me, it's always just being in the moment. Just be here now.
Yeah.
Good old Ram Dass used to say.
Yeah, and trust me, you know, when you know, nothing is too outlandish for me. You know, I think we're kind of born with
It took a few hours for me to tell you all the
But that's why I want to do it. You know, I'm sure we can continue. You know, with our talks. I don't want to take too much time of you today. But, this was it was an absolute, you know, pleasure, and I use my inner guidance. You know, I was kind of wondering, well, you know, I really don't know Jeff that well, but this is my intuition, you know, and I always go by my intuition, especially when I see your photos and. You know, like and photos are images, you know, and you know, images are extremely powerful, and so they convey something. You know, when you take a picture somewhere, it's not only just a physical image, but there's a whole, you know, a whole, what's the word? Symbolism behind it. You know, that words can't describe it, but there's something that is present.
Oh yeah, that's why people use emojis.
Yeah.
There's a lot of words, but art expresses a mood when the word. somebody might think you're angry with what you type, but if you put a smile and emoji, they know you're not angry. It's just you're being straightforward or something, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, hey, this was a great conversation
you.
that we had, and yeah, we'll definitely do more of these, you know, and explore, you know, different territories. And once again, you know, thanks. You know,
Thank you.
patience pays off. You know, just think a week ago, a week and a half ago, you didn't have your computer set up, so we had to do it maybe on your mobile. And so look how patience works out. You know, I mean,
I figured out how to fix that net framework issue. It's something that that is something that developers do. You know, it's not, you can't go in to add, remove, move programs. It's not there.
uh,
It's hard to find it to delete it. And if you do, it just comes right back. So I was fortunate to figure it out and fix it last night. So.
oh, good. Oh, yeah. When I saw that, you know, that you got it fixed, I go, all right, hey, you know.
Oh, I was excited, man. I've been dealing with this for over a month.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
These net framework warnings come up. They pop up. I'll have like 10, 15 of them, and I have to close them all before I can do anything.
Yeah, you know, Microsoft, unfortunately, you know, when they upgrade, you know, to software, you know, to a higher version, unfortunately, the .NET framework for some reason doesn't get updated too.
Yeah, right. And I got it done last night, and then they had that big upgrade, which after I did the net framework thing, Microsoft gave me a little Windows, and there was a major upgrade to the operating system.
Oh, wow. Oh,
It took a few hours last night for it all to download and install again.
mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you got it solved.
Yeah, thank you. And this has been really great, Richard. Thank you. Say hi to John.
Okay, I will. Okay, talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.